Well, welcome to question 106 of the secundae. The topic for today is gratitude, and I am Dr. Thibault. When we look to place gratitude, it is under the cardinal virtue of justice. Under the potential parts of justice called observance. We've already looked at religion, which is owed to God, piety, which is owed to family and to country. And now we are looking at observance, which deals with other people that we owe something to. This is dealing with giving to one's due. How do we give one's due in terms of gratitude? Now, the other term for gratitude is thankfulness. Gratitude is based more strictly on the Latin. It is a special virtue according to St. Thomas, which isn't surprising since it's almost always a special virtue. The nature of a debt to be paid must needs vary according to various causes giving rise to the debt. So this is special because it's specific. It's not the debt we owe to everyone within the human race. This is due specifically to certain people. So we've already considered this when we looked at religion. So we looked at what is due to God, who is our principle of all the goods. So that what is due to God, religion. That's what is due. And we went into all of that, reference prayer, um, sacrifice, oblations. The list goes on and on. We've also looked at what is due to our parents or country, who are our proximate principles of our begetting. And then we looked at persons excelling in dignity, favors, general favors, people with excellence in terms of dignity. We've covered them over the last couple of questions under observance. And now this section of gratitude more specifically is dealing with this fourth category, which are benefactors. It's kind of the first time we're bringing them up in this section, but benefactors, whom we owe particular things to our benefactors. We gain some particular favors from them, some special favors from them. And gratitude, according to St. Thomas, it really responds from a moral debt. Gratitude is to a moral debt to pay back. Give each one its due. What is owed to the benefactors is gratitude. And it's paid spontaneously. If you were to go to a child's birthday party and you give them a present and they kind of roll their eyes and they don't say anything, and then a week later you get a letter that says, "Thank you so much for my favorite toy!" Exclamation point. I think their parents wrote that, and not them, because the true gratitude is spontaneous. It doesn't come with exclamation points a week later, but you can see it on the face of the person spontaneously. Now, second article is kind of an interesting question of who is owed more. Innocent people, do they owe more, or do penitent people owe more in terms of what is owed to God in gratitude? Now, this one is an interesting one because St. Thomas uses the words from the Gospel of St. Luke, to whom more is forgiven, he loveth more. And it really responds in two ways to this free gift of the giver. One is owing to the quantity of the thing given. So who has gained, in some sense, a greater gift? What is greater? It is really the continuous gift of innocence. If somebody is 40 years old and they still have their innocence about them, they're not really burdened with sin, and they have their innocence, having not sinned much within their life, you could say, well, God has given them a continuous gift of the 40 years of their life, right? For 40 years they have had this gift. Therefore, the innocent owe quite a bit of God, quite a bit to God in terms of gratitude. Now, a great sinner may have been sinning, grievously for the greater part of the previous 40 years, but what they have received is a tremendous gift of forgiveness, right? So in some sense, that's a greater gift because it is what is deserving of that person is punishment, but what they have received is forgiveness. Therefore, what they have received is greater than what they, is great compared to what they deserved. Therefore, in some ways, the penitent is more has more gratitude. So, really, the end of the day, which one has greater gratitude? Well, both, right? Both, but for different reasons. So, if a person has lived a life primarily sinless, then they owe gratitude to God for their continued innocence. And if a person has been a grievous sinner for most of their life but has been forgiven, then the penitent has great deal of gratitude as well. So in some ways, it's really both. Now, are we bound to pay back our benefactors? Going back to that fourth topic of what is owed, and uh, and the answer is yes. We're bound to pay back our benefactors, and and since benefactors have given a beneficiary, your beneficiary, there is a sense of inequality, right? They have given a tremendous amount, you have gained a tremendous amount, but what have you given back? What have you given back? What is due? Um, Now, natural order requires that something should be repaid. This part of natural order, uh, a reaction. There should be an equal and opposite reaction. Uh, but not everyone is able to pay back in a financial way. If a person gets a financial scholarship to go to college for social work, they may not be able to financially pay back the person who has given them so much. Um, but you can be grateful in other ways. Uh, St. Thomas says reverence and honor is owed, right? And that's free. It's free to give somebody reverence and honor. So, what do we owe our benefactors? At the very least, reverence and honor. St. Thomas goes on to, in response to objection 5, to respond a poor man is not ungrateful if he does what he can. Uh, a good point. If he can do what he can do, if he does what he can, then he's not ungrateful. Right? Uh, and then St. Thomas quotes from Seneca, one can give good advice, frequent fellowship, affable and pleasant conversations without flattery. If somebody has done great things for you, you know, just be their friend. You can it doesn't have to be financial, but one should be gracious uh, in response. Sometimes you help people out and it ends up blowing up on you. No good deed goes unpunished. But the appropriate thing would be that people at least respond at the very least with gratitude and reverence. Um, Now, for repaying a favor, should you pay it back right away, or should you wait a bit to repay back your debt? In case anybody who's listening to this uh, has borrowed money from me, I would say pay it back as soon as don't wait in order to be gracious. But what St. Thomas points out is he uses a lot from Seneca here. He that hastens to repay is animated with a sense not of gratitude but indebtedness. So if the whole idea is got to pay it back, got to pay it back, got to pay it back, then your attitude is not gratitude. your attitude is indebtedness, right? That's how you act when you have a credit card. Payment is indebtedness, not gratitude. So that would then not your perspective would be of a legal uh, debt, not a moral debt. Uh, St. Thomas quotes, as regards to the affection of the heart, repayment should be made at once. Legal debt must be paid at once. Right? So if somebody has a legal debt, then you should pay it back. It's legally required to be paid. Legal debt, in some sense, is not a matter of gratitude, right? I have a credit card, which I currently don't. Well, I have, but I don't use it. But if I were to put money on my credit card, I don't have an attitude of gratitude to the credit card company who's trying to charge me 22% interest. I don't have a sense of gratitude. I have a sense of legal indebtedness, a financial indebtedness to them. So you just pay it back at once. Now, what happens if, this is perhaps less legal, I mean, less economic and more of that moral sense. Your friend helps drive you to the garage to pick up your car from the garage. Not necessarily a financial thing. It's a good deed, right? Somebody has paid you with a good deed. The trick shouldn't be to, okay, now as soon as I get home, I got to make a plate of cookies and drive that over to their house to pay them back for the thing they do. Or, they drove me to the garage, so I've got to pay for their lunch, like what, and insisting that I pay for their lunch or something like that. Right? If there's a sense that I need to pay them back as quickly as possible, I need to even out this moral debt that I owe to them, then your attitude is really not gratitude. It's indebtedness, right? It's indebtedness. And gratitude is a virtue. So to be allowed to pay them back when the time is right, in a moral sense, is appropriate attitude of gratitude. Um, St. Thomas says, in contrast, if one wished to pay at once favor for favor, it would not seem to be a virtue, not to seem to be virtuous, but a constrained repayment. It loses its gift element of it if you're, so determined that it must be paid back evenly and as quick as possible. Seneca writes as well. Seneca wrote back. He writes on both sides of this issue. He that wishes to repay too soon is an unwilling debtor, and an unwilling debtor is ungrateful. Uh, so this is, so to allow somebody to do something nice for you, to help you out, and not feel like you got to pay them back as soon as possible. To allow that gratitude to remain. Now, what do we owe people in gratitude? Respect, thankfulness, kindness, the desire to pay them back someday. That should exist, right? There should be gratitude given, but not necessarily a sense of like everything's transactional or economic. It's not always economic. Now, how about what's more important, a benefactor's disposition or their deed? So, for example, if gives you, somebody drives you an hour to the airport versus somebody drives you 20 minutes to the closer airport, who do you owe a greater uh, sense of gratitude towards? Somebody who's done a bigger thing or somebody who has had a better disposition? Well, St. Thomas, he points out that it's really the one that had the greater disposition. Even if it's a smaller thing that they did, to do small things with great love is better to do big things uh, begrudgingly, right? So St. Thomas looks at repayment has various factors. So he looks at justice, gratitude, and friendship. Um, in terms of justice, which applies more to this legal debt issue, right? You just pay back as soon as you can, right? You borrowed money, you got to pay back the money. Pay back the money. If you borrowed money and then you go out and you buy, you say you need, oh, I need money for my college books, my books for college, and you use that money for your college books, and then your first paycheck comes in, your next paycheck comes in, and you decide, you know what, I deserve it. I'm going to go buy a video game system or a new TV, something like this. I'll pay back that debt that I borrowed for the books, you know, 3 paychecks from now, something like this. St. Thomas has a very negative view of this, where it's the idea that, if you were to use that money for yourself when you owe somebody that money, um, you are essentially stealing from them. You're taking from them what is owed to them and using it on yourself. That's kind of a bad faith move, right? Borrow money from your friend, and before you paid back your friend, you went on vacation, particularly you didn't invite them. That would be a bad taste. That's a violation of that kind of legal debt, justice that is owed. But in terms of a moral debt, which probably deals less with money and more to do with other things, um, uh, the response is gratitude, right? This is a debt that comes out of friendship. If you have a friendship with somebody and a friend does you a favor, the response is gratitude, and you owe a moral debt to them. And when you're dealing with friendship to that degree, how they did it, right? To do even a smaller thing with a bigger heart is better than to do a big thing but begrudgingly. So the greater moral debt goes to the person with the greater heart in their giving, a joyful giver. Now, this is the last article and also a very interesting one. So justice often deals with issues of equality, right? So paying back equal, giving one their due. So the last of the objections here it points out that um, if if it's supposed to be equal, if somebody did something nice for you, you should do something equally nice for them. Equal is the key word, right? If you were to give more than what was they did for you, then you're not equal, and therefore it must be a vice, right? Because it's an excess. But what St. Thomas points to is uh, graciousness, right? This idea of like, kind of gift giving um, is not really about equality. Um, what is one's due? Probably nothing. Nothing is due. Otherwise, it's not a gift. In terms of gift giving, it's graciousness, right? It's just gracious. Um, and what's the appropriate response to somebody who's gracious towards you? Be gracious back towards them, right? That's what's appropriate. And St. Thomas takes this from Aristotle, from Nicomachean Ethics, right? You're giving, somebody is gracious to you, the proper response isn't a legal response, right? Oh, you gave me this, which was worth $20. I'll give you something else that will be worth $20, right? Now we're even, right? You gave me a gift for 20, I gave you a gift for 20. Uh, is to be more, a proper response to graciousness is to be gracious in response, which is to be give more than what is owed. So there's, you see this frequently with friends where you can't figure out who's going to pay the bill because, no, I'm going to pay the bill. No, I'm going to pay the bill. No, I'm going to pay the bill. People fight over who can be more gracious, right? That's actually a wonderful thing. Um, um, so it's to do as much as you can. It inclines more than a payback, but to something of gratitude. And if you are unable to pay something back, an example that St. Thomas gives is, a child to their parent. How does a child ever pay back their parent? You really can't. Right? You can never pay them back. They gave you the gift of life. Um, they set you on the right path. They've helped you in so many ways. There's no ways you can really pay them back. So how can you be more gracious to your parents than they were to you? You probably can't. But what you are able to do is to try, and if at the very least the will to pay back would be sufficient to show gratitude, right? Because gratitude, as pointed out in Article 4, it's not about the amount, it's about that attitude, right? It's to give back with a big heart, right? Even if it's a small amount, but to give with a big heart is more important than giving a big amount with a begrudging heart. So that's a good point. So in conclusion, gratitude is a special virtue because it's dealing with being gracious. It's not giving simply what one is due, but giving more than what is due. Uh, Both the innocent and penitent both have a great gratitude that's owed to God, as God has shown so much graciousness to them. Um, Man is bound to give thanks for human favors, to your benefactors. You owe at the very least reverence and honor to them, if not more. Thanksgiving should be given in a reasonable time, right? If you're trying to pay back your friends so quickly, then you don't have an attitude of graciousness or gratitude, but you have an attitude of indebtedness. So that's a different thing. Um, that is different than legal debts, which you should pay back in a sense of indebtedness, right? But for friends, that's a moral debt. Therefore, it's dealing with gratitude. Gratitude is based on disposition of the giver, not necessarily the amount of money. It's not necessarily the amount; it's the attitude one has. And is uh, gratitude is greater in is a greater repayment, right? It's not simply saying, well, somebody did, somebody bought me dinner last time, so I will pay them a dinner back of equal value this time. In some sense, that is justice, but it's not justice in terms of gratitude. What's equal in terms of gratitude is somebody shows you gratitude that you show gratitude as well, which by definition is more than. So it's kind of an excelling virtue. Next topic that we'll do in question 107 is ingratitude.